This is Moonlit Lioness, and you have reached my channel and Stargazing Sunday. This is take 2 because I missed an essential piece in my first video, and so I'm going to do it again. And I'm also going to rename myself while you watch again. But yes, what happened was I got everything laid out. There's so much going on this week astrologically that I neglected to mention it's an eclipse. It's not just a new moon, it's an eclipse. So let's get on to it and share right now and just get on with it because there is lots to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna make this bigger and hopefully that looks bigger to you as well. Yes, great. Okay, so this is for the week of August 9th to August 15th. Like I said, there's like all kinds of stuff going on. It's like life is you're dropped onto an obstacle course and boy, you've got all kinds of stuff to run in, out, through, over, up, down. It's just fantastic. Anyway, so as you can see with the moon phases here, we're entering into a new moon phase, and on August 12th, it's not just a new moon, it's a solar eclipse. We won't be seeing it here in the United States. I think it could be seen somewhat in in Europe. Spain comes to mind for some reason. I haven't looked at it recently, so you'll have to look that up to see exactly where it is. But I know it's not here in the United States that we can see it. It's visible. However, at the beginning of the week, we've got that Cancer energy, which is nurturing, family focused, emotional in nature, and then we move into on Tuesday and Wednesday into a Leo energy that's more creative and expressive, romantic, and then on Thursday and Friday we're into a Virgo energy, which is more detail oriented, health conscious, work oriented, and then finally Saturday it's Libra, more balanced, harmonious, cooperative, etc. So you can see that our solar eclipse is going to be happening in Leo. So solar eclipses have a really strong energy. Okay, they last for a really long time. They're like new moons on steroids. So and they usually kind of bring in more than likely external circumstances. So it's not just kind of an internal energy that you deal with. It's usually there's some things that happen externally that also change in your life around eclipse time. So let me see here. So just wanted to mention that as far as eclipses go. All right, let's just look at the planetary aspects that we have this week. And as you can see, there's so many of them. Today we've got Mercury entering Leo, and at the same time it's squaring Chiron and Taurus. On Monday, we've got Venus coming into a formation of a kite, which means it's aspecting all of the outer planets that are already in their mini trine. On Tuesday, August 11th, we've got Mars entering Cancer. Wednesday, and also we've got Mercury creating a basket. So it's also going into formation with the outer planets and creating a basket formation. And then on the 12th also, or no, we haven't got to the 12th yet. So on the 12th, we've got the solar eclipse new moon in Leo. And on Thursday the 13th, we've got Mercury in Leo, sextiling Venus in Libra, and on Friday we've got Mercury conjuncting Jupiter in Leo. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the first slide where we can talk about each day individually. And I'm going to try making it just a little bigger. There we go. Okay, so on Sunday, today, I'm recording this before Sunday, but I'll try to remember to call it today. So Sunday today, August 9th, we have Mercury entering Leo. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and look at the chart real quick. And I don't want this to take forever, so I'm going to look at the chart and then I'm going to go and talk about the cards. So what we have here is we have Mercury right here. And it's entering Leo, so it moves so fast that it hit the zero. It hit the 0 degrees, and then it went to 1 degree before I went ahead and took a snapshot of the chart. So anyway, it's in a square right here. You can see it's in a square to Chiron and Taurus. Okay. Any planet that comes along, the personal planets, as I said last time I spoke, they move faster than the slower planets, the outer planets and the asteroids. So Chiron is an asteroid, and it moves very slowly. You can see it's been at 0 degrees for the last few weeks, for a while now. And so planets come through and they hit this point like a square to Chiron, or they might hit, as it gets farther up here, it'll hit a trine to Chiron, and so on. And so as planets hit those points, 0 degrees Cancer, 0 degrees Leo, 0 degrees Virgo, they hit points where they aspect Chiron and they kind of activate it. It's like what I talked about with the nodes, where you have the south node and the north node, and they get activated as planets go through and make aspects to them. And so the same thing is happening here. So what is Chiron in Taurus? Let me show you here. Chiron is over here in the tarot cards. It doesn't have its own tarot card. So we have the Hierophant showing Taurus energy, but it also shows the teaching energy of Chiron. So what happens with Chiron? The mythical figure, he gets wounded, and then he heals himself, and then after he learns how to heal himself, he heals others with his knowledge, right? So here's wounds with the Three of Swords. Here's persevering and healing self, you could say, or persevering with the Knight of Wands, and then teaching others with the Hierophant. So all of those energies are represented with these 3 tarot cards here. And that, again, as I said over here on this chart, it's in a square to Mercury, which just entered Leo. So let's talk about Mercury. Mercury is represented by the Magician, and the Magician has just left Cancer and is going into Leo. So it's just left Cancer, the energy of home and family and emotions and that sort of thing, and moving into Leo, which is more concentration on self and your own identity and how you express yourself and that kind of stuff. So the thinking and the manifesting, the man is manifesting. He's taking his inspiration and his thoughts coming from above, and I'm going to lose my glasses, and he's manifesting them into the 3D world. He's taking an idea and he's making it reality. So that's the Magician. That's Mercury. Mercury is lots of thoughts and communication. It can make things happen, So that's what we're showing here with first we're showing how Mercury goes from Cancer into Leo, but I'm also explaining how Mercury is the Magician, and I'm also showing you that with this square to Chiron, what we're doing is we're thinking a lot about whatever wounds you may have. So what kind of wounds with Chiron may you have? Well, if we look at Taurus and the sign that Chiron is in, Taurus themes include your personal finances, food, your body, what comforts you, what your values are, your self-worth, and that kind of stuff, what sustains you. So anything in that realm, maybe you have a concern about always having enough money, or maybe you have a concern about having too much money. Maybe you have a subconscious sabotage against, if you have an opportunity to make money, you're like, you subconsciously sabotage yourself into not going there because you've got something in there about something against having too much money. People go both ways, right? Maybe you criticize your body about the way it looks. Maybe you are, have this certain things about foods, So there's wounds in those areas that we've, developed along the way throughout our lives. And when these aspects come up, it's about a time for them to come up, to be made aware of them, and then to hopefully kind of overcome them or acknowledge them so that we can just kind of hopefully move on, and not let that hold us back in our lives. So that's the idea of, so whenever something is aspecting Chiron, whether it be a sextile or square or a trine, you're going to possibly have those kind of moments, especially while it's in Taurus. It's going to be in Taurus for a long time. So, that's going to be an ongoing theme for quite a while, until Chiron moves out of Taurus into Gemini. We're going to be constantly coming back to, why am I holding myself back here, and that kind of thing. So, okay, let's move on to Monday, tomorrow. And we've got Venus coming in to form a kite. So I left everything else off so I can make it really clear for you so you can see what that looks like. So here's Venus right here in Libra. And it's been approaching and applying to a point where it's at the strongest kite formation, and then it leaves. So you've got the mini trine over here made by the outer planets, and when Venus hits this point, it creates, these lines the aspects are created, and that it looks like a kite. And what's the importance of a kite? Well, the kite is made up of a main opposition, which is the red line in the middle, between Venus in this case and Neptune. And then the other sides that are with the blue lines, which are sextiles and trines, are where there is support for this opposition. Because opposition, you can picture the red lines as like tug of wars, like one side's tugging this way and the other side's tugging this way, and they don't seem to be able to come to a resolution. It's very, very, very hard to integrate. But with the trines and the sextiles, the blue lines, you get support, so you get extra help and somehow figure out a way to integrate. At that point, tug of war maybe not the best example, but anyway. So the main opposition here is what I want to focus on in the cards. I've got Neptune over here in Aries, which is on the right side on my slide. So here's Neptune, which is the Hanged Man. Okay, and then Aries is represented by the Emperor. So the Hanged Man, what is that? That's spirituality, coming to an understanding through something maybe a little uncomfortable. Neptune is about compassion and spirituality. In a negative sense, it can be illusion or disillusion or delusion. But in this case, our Neptune is at an opposition to Venus. But it has so many sextiles and blue lines here. I think a lot of it has to do with spirituality and finding your own understanding, your own Neptunian, individualistic, because it's in Aries. And that's what this guy is showing. He's saying, I'm the one that's in charge. Emperor's saying, I'm in charge of, what I want and what I want to see. I'm not going to follow the crowd. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm the one in charge of my domain. So in this case, it's especially spirituality and compassion and humanity, and creativity is also part of Neptune. So anything that's kind of right brain, inspirational type thinking. So you've got that side of it, and then in opposition, so if you look over here at the chart, you've got Neptune, and then on opposition, you've got Venus here forming the tail of the kite. And Venus on my slide is the Empress, and Venus is in Libra, and that's shown by the Justice card. So here you've got somebody who's very nurturing, very others thinking. They're thinking of others and wanting to nurture others and have harmony and peace and just love and beauty and balance with the Justice card. Love, Venus is in her domicile. She rules Libra, so she's in a place that she's very comfortable with. So how is it that we have an opposition? It's tension between forming our own ideas about humanity and spirituality, which is this part over here, while still fitting in with relationships. So I want to be okay with everybody and want to do this. Yeah, I'm trying to form my own ideas about what I believe. So that could be what's going on here. It's could be a very high level type of way of looking at this. So there's that opposition, and then what supports it? You got Uranus and Gemini, which is, Gemini is a lot of thinking and conversations, so ongoing thinking and conversations. And then the other side is Pluto, which is shown here. Pluto in Aquarius, which is the ongoing changes to systems and how we relate to humanity, to our social systems, and so on. The kite pattern here, the opposition is supported by two harmonious sextiles, and inspiration and innovation kind of helped keep this from being a really strong and harsh tension. So that's kind of what we're feeling on Monday. We've got this kite thing going, and I think we're gonna maybe just have this feeling of I want to find my own spirituality, but yet I don't want to lose balance and harmony and relationships and that kind of thing. There might be some of that going on. All right, Tuesday, we've got Mars entering Cancer. So over here on the chart, we can see Mars right here in Cancer. It's at 0 degrees. It just entered Cancer. And because it's at 0 degrees, just entering Cancer, it's in a sextile to Chiron. So we had, in the previous, if you go back and look, here we have Mercury in a square to Chiron. And I just talked about, Chiron and the wounds that have to do with what's in Taurus. And now we've got, just a couple days later, virtually at the same time, right? We've got Mars entering Cancer and being in sextile to Chiron. So Mars is also adding energy where we feel we must put energy into addressing this wound. Okay, so and Mars is in Cancer, which is family oriented as well. So I think there's a lot of family oriented stuff, because you see that when you see the same cards come up again and again, there's a lot of that similar energy happening for the week. So we've seen the Chariot again. So that means Chariot, he's got his home on his back, home and family. He's wearing his armor. That's the crab of Cancer. So it has to do with emotions. So he's there's a lot of emotional energy, a lot of home and family type energy, right? Okay, so what this is showing here, this whole slide, it's showing Mars, which is the Tower card, and it is going from Gemini to Cancer. Now, we actually have a Mars and Gemini card in the tarot deck, which I talked about last week, I think. So the Mars and Gemini pip card is Nine of Swords, and it shows the worst version of the Mars and Gemini, where you overthink things and you get really anxious and nervous and all that. There can be a higher expression of Mars and Gemini where, you just have a lot of passion and you have a lot of energy and you're just really thinking clearly, and it's not getting you down or making you worried. So, there is another aspect to this. There's always two sides, right? There's always a positive and a negative. So we've got, again, like I said, we've got Mars entering Cancer, and then we also have the sextile to Chiron here, where it's triggering that theme of, why am I feeling this way? I need to stop holding myself back, kind of stuff. Let's see. Also, I want to note that Mars is in fall here, being in Cancer. So every planet, in traditional astrology, every planet has a sign that it loves to be in, a sign that it feels at home in. That's the domicile. So Venus in Libra is domicile. It's in its domicile or in its rulership. And then it has planets or signs that they don't like to be in. So Mars does not like to be in Cancer, according to traditional astrology. And it just means that the energy and passion of Mars and the impulsive and initiative type nature of Mars doesn't match well with the water emotional feeling of Cancer, nurturing, protective. It can clash a little bit, which can mean that it can come out in an awkward expression, which means there could be like emotional situations that happen regarding wounds, on this day. So that's just, it depends on how it is in your chart and all kinds of things. But I'm just saying that that can happen when you have Mars, a planet in fall, or a square or an opposition can also bring that kind of thing out as well. Okay, so let's move on to another aspect of Tuesday is that Mercury forms a basket. And I could not get AI to form a basket for the life of me. I tried and tried and tried. I actually made a sketch and I scanned it in and I said, make it look like this, and it still couldn't do it. So anyway, the basket you can see, it's on the chart over here. Here's the top of the basket with the red line opposition, and then you've got the sides of the basket as I'm tracing them right here with all the sextiles. Sextiles have little asterisks on them. And then you've got like these this X on the basket, which is, I don't know, I see it as, I don't know, what do you call that, trusses or braces or I don't know, something like that on a home structure. But these are the lines with the little triangles, which are called trines. Okay, so this is the basket. And Mercury came in and it's hitting that spot where Jupiter and the Sun have already been. And Mars will come up and hit that spot eventually as well. And what it's doing is it's hitting this spot in aspect to this mini trine right here that's been there since last year. It hit its peak on July 27th, and it's starting to come apart. They were all exactly 4 degrees in July, and now you can see Pluto is at 3 degrees, Neptune's still at 4 degrees, and Uranus is at 5 degrees and moving forward. And so it's going to kind of loosen up and not be as strong as it was. But in the meantime, while they're still close enough to each other by degree aspect, you've got planets coming in, and when they hit this spot, they create this basket formation. And so Mercury has created the opposition now to Pluto. And I'm showing this opposition right here on my slide. So Pluto is the Judgment card, and Aquarius is the Star card. And then Mercury is the Magician card, and Leo is the Strength card. So to see the opposition in energy, you've got Pluto in Aquarius, which is kind of like, a change in the collective. Aquarius can be new technology, new humanitarian ideals, a change on a larger scale. It's the collective, right? And so Pluto is showing the change. It's also, like I said, new technology. So that can include AI, it can include social media, new computer type system, new financial system, new systems, right? New futuristic, new tech supported systems. So Pluto is showing that side of it. And then on the other side of it, you've got Mercury in Leo. And Leo is very much the individual. So you've got, Aquarius is the collective, Leo is the individual. Pluto is a change in the collective. Mercury is the thinking of the individual. So the way I see this on a personal scale, I kind of encountered this a little bit today. So me working on my slides, I'm working with AI, so I see AI as being the, Pluto in Aquarius a little bit, because, it's that new technology, that change that's happening. We see the march of AI coming with all the data centers and all the worry, and, we're worried about, is it going to be okay? Are we all going to, survive this? Are we going to survive this situation? And it's kind of that worry and tug of war between what we know and what we want for ourselves, and yet what we want to have. We want to have also a better world. That's kind of the collective too. We want to have a better world. So there's this tug of war between, keeping things kind of the way they are because it's familiar. We know what it is. It's it's the ego-based, fear-based, this is what I know, and then versus the kind of this technical unknown future. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of it's kind of what I'm experiencing a little bit, and I think a lot of people are, and I think it's represented well with this astrology between Pluto and Mercury, and Pluto in Aquarius and Mercury in Leo. But Mercury's there just momentarily. It's going to move on. It's not like it's a really big, long-lasting aspect like it is with the other two planets, the other two outer planets, which are kind of holding their positions, at least for now. And what these planets are doing, of course, Neptune and Uranus, which I love the fact AI couldn't make the basket. It's nice to know that there's still some things it can't do. But anyway, Neptune and Uranus, they are offering support in this challenge of, how to integrate, how I can manifest for myself. I guess another example is how I can manifest for myself through, creating these slides. So, if I were to make slides like these, it would take me all day. It would take me more than all day. And I have a lot of obligations. I have a special needs child. I don't have all day. And so, the only way I could actually do what I'm doing is because I have the support of the technology that can draw up the slides for me. So there is a lot of benefit to using them. And, this idea of over here of me, the magician, manifesting everything, and ego-based and doing it for myself, versus letting some of that go and letting AI do some of it is helping me to integrate this opposition here. I think I'll talk about that more in another slide. So let me get on to the next. Okay, well, not on this one, but so on Wednesday we have our new moon is our new moon in Leo, and for all of us in the United States, it will look like a new moon. It's happening at 1:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 20 degrees Leo. I have my ascendant at roughly 8 degrees Leo, so I might be feeling this. I might be feeling this. But a new moon is typically a time to plant seeds, and what you want. And if you look over here on our chart, you can see that our new moon, which is at 19 degrees here, Leo, 20 degrees Leo, is what it ultimately becomes. We have also in Leo, Jupiter and Mercury. So you've got the stellium going on, and then you've also got the south node, which I don't show on here, but the south node is also very close. And all of these planets are slowly marching, and not so slowly actually, they're rather swiftly marching toward the south node, which is about letting go. Okay, so first of all, you've got, for this whole solar eclipse and the flavor and the feeling and the value and what it means, you've got all this energy in Leo, which is about ourself, how we shine, our identity, right, our purpose. And it's in opposition to what I was just talking about, Pluto and Aquarius. All right, how we relate on the grand scale, the social scale, with everyone else. And I guess what I want to say here is, well, in addition, I'm not sure which to say first, but okay, let's go ahead and talk about, since I already said it, it's moving toward, it's moving, sorry. It's getting late. It's moving towards the south node. So it's about letting something go of your ego, right? Because that's what Leo is a lot about. It's a lot about, it's ruled by the sun. That's our kind of our core, our vitality, our identity, our purpose, our ego. So it's going to ask us to let go of something, right? What's it going to ask us to let go of? Well, maybe it's what I talked about. Maybe it has something to do with, the new technology, social media, maybe giving up the idea that, I have to do all this myself, or or it's not me, what's me and what's not me, if I have somebody else create something, is it still part of my creation? So that's a very Leo kind of thought process, and maybe a Leo rising, yeah, I would know. So it's, there might be a lot of that going on the collective scale, but there's also here you've got this faint line that I'm tracking right now, going back and forth across here, goes over to Saturn, and Saturn is in Aries, and Saturn is our structures and systems of life. So it could be about something to do with our structures or systems of life. It could be, Saturn, it can be fears as well. It can be, where you're restricted yourself, where you have held back. And being in Aries wants you to move forward. So having, Saturn in Aries, you want to move forward, but you're holding yourself back. There's this kind of energy going on. So there may be something there with this new moon where you finally release something that where you're holding yourself back, from a fear that has to do with Leo, with your ego of some kind, right? So there's so many different ways to read astrology, but I'm trying to read it on a more psychological level, because when you try to get into details, like like you're going to move next month, it doesn't work for everybody. It only works I'd have to see your houses to get more detailed. So anyway, let me see. I have not talked about the cards yet. So let's talk about the cards for this particular slide, okay? So we've got what I'm showing here with the cards is as I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. But I'm showing the new moon, or the solar eclipse, right? So the solar eclipse is made up of the moon and the sun, and the moon card is the high priestess, not the moon. The moon card is Pisces. Actually, in tarot, the high priestess is actually representative of the moon. And you can see that because she has the phases of the moon on her crown. She's got the full moon and the crescent moon. And she's even got a moon down here that's hanging off of her her robes, I guess. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. So you've got the moon, which conveys a sense of privacy, subconscious, things hidden behind the veil, and that kind of thing. Something that's maybe, it's the high priestess. So you kind of get this sense that there's something hidden yet more reverent in nature, right? Something spiritual, right? And then you've got the black and white columns, which makes me think of new moon and full moon also. And then over here in the sun, you've got what we've already talked about. You've got strength, courage, heart, identity, vitality, where you shine, where you want to be recognized, and that kind of thing, your ego. So both of them are getting together, and the moon it's eclipsing the sun, right? So that means the sun, the solar energy, the ego is going to be eclipsed momentarily, and the moon is going to be in the forefront, and the sun is going to be in the back, right? So that plays into the whole thing too. So the solar eclipse invites you to listen within, have faith in yourself, and lead from the heart. Oh, love the words from AI, don't you? You can read that if you. I don't even argue with it. I'm just like, okay, just whatever. Put your words on there. My thing is I want to show you the cards and the imagery, right? So the other cards I have on here to show a little bit more is the Saturn and Aries. So I mentioned that this solar eclipse or this new moon is aspecting weekly, but it's aspecting Saturn and Aries. And Saturn is represented by the World card, and Aries is the Emperor. So again, I said Saturn's like our structures and systems. It's things that we build, and you know, this card is kind of showing structures, boundaries, how you create something and then you move to the next level. You know, you achieve something. You know, Saturn rules Capricorn, and that's all about achievement. Like I said, it can also be fears too. So you've got that aspect of it as well. So with the solar eclipse, an aspect to this, you may, if you don't, you know, if you have certain things that you're kind of afraid of doing, you might find yourself being pushed out, having to do them anyway. I'll give you a quick story, just real quick. I just had a root canal, or not a root canal. I just had a crown. And, you know, so when did that happen? It happened when the sun was in a trine to Saturn. So here's Saturn right now in this picture. It's in this trine aspect to, well, okay, it shows it's a weak trine to the sun because this is 19 degrees and this is 14 degrees. The sun was exactly at 14 degrees a few days ago. And that's what I had my crown put on. So I had had a sore tooth. I went into the dentist. The day before I went to the dentist, I thought, okay, I'm not having any soreness anymore, so it's probably nothing. And but I kept my appointment because I just wanted them to check anyway. Well, it turned out I had a crack in my tooth, and that surprised me. And they're like, okay. And we're like, well, when do you want to do this? And they're like, right now. And I really had to face a fear. I had to face a fear of having, you know, a crown put on because I'd never had one done before. So, you know, that was facing a fear. And, you know, interestingly, Saturn also rules bones and Aries rules the head. So it can be very much about the teeth when you see Saturn and Aries like that. And it was in a trine to the sun in my first house because my first house is Leo. So, which is the house of self. It's a physical house. So, the idea of all of that happening actually physically showed up for me and forced me to face a fear about having work done in my mouth. Not that I'm afraid of the dentist, but, you know, who wants to have a shot and have their tooth drilled down? And I mean, seriously, nobody. I don't think anybody does. But so that's a little story. It goes along with the idea that, you know, this eclipse can bring in situations that you didn't expect, to get you to face a fear that you may not have otherwise done on your own, you know, willingly. Not that, you know, I knew anything about it before that, but anyway, it was about facing fear for sure. Okay, so on Friday, August 14th, we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter in Leo. So right here on the chart, you see Mercury right here, conjunct Jupiter, all in Leo. And we saw it, if we go back to the previous chart, you can see it was already approaching and getting close to Jupiter right here. And we already have this stellium in Leo. So it's a lot of energy in Leo. There's a lot of energy in Leo right now. Okay. The interesting thing too is there, you know, the sun and the moon are still here. I just didn't put them on here. I wanted to try to keep the lines clean so that you could see this beautiful aspect that's happening. You know, this beautiful, we've got like this grand trine here, this big triangle. We've got a kite right here, We've got a rectangle, or they call it an envelope, because you got the crosses in the middle. I mean, and if you turn it over, I mean, it actually looks like a house. And I don't know if there's an aspect named house. I don't think there is, but I mean, it's just, you got this beautiful symmetrical type thing going on here. It's really interesting, really quite interesting. So I wanted to leave that up so that you could see the kind of symmetry that's happening right now. And what I can say about that is that you've got this opposition between Mercury conjunct Jupiter and Pluto. Okay, and we've already talked about Mercury opposite Pluto, so I'm not going to go through and talk about that anymore. But you've got this opposition, and then you've got this opposition between Venus and Neptune, which I've already talked about. However, look at all of these supporting trines and sextiles around those two oppositions. It just shows that there's all kinds of support, energetic support for the tensions. And so the tensions may be there, but they're not going to be severe, right? It's just a lovely safety net. I don't know what else to call it, but okay. So to talk about the cards and the conjunction, so we've got Mercury conjunct Jupiter here in Leo. So here's Mercury, the magician, conjunct Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune. And when you put those two together, the Wheel of Fortune kind of, Jupiter, what it's known to do is it's known to expand things, generally speaking. It can also bring in an element of philosophy to a situation, because Jupiter does rule Sagittarius. So they both have that aspect to them. So it has to do with belief systems, philosophy. So here you can look and see what it says. The conjunction, a powerful union of mind and wisdom. So wisdom comes from your philosophies and what you study and your belief systems. Your thoughts will expand, your beliefs will grow, new possibilities open through inspired insight and courageous expression. So that's a nice way to explain this Mercury conjunct Jupiter. It just may really make you more talkative, blah, 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 right? And being in Leo, a lot of talk about what's in your heart, something that you feel very creative about, where you're expressing yourself, in, your who you are, right? Okay, that is Friday. Okay, so lastly, on the world stage, and the date's not right up here, so don't mind the date, but this is a highly active week. So we saw at the very beginning how there was like a different astrological conjunction, aspect, square, whatever, every day of the week, right? And then we have the kite, and we have the trine, and we have the basket, and everything, and the solar eclipse. So it's just all kinds of stuff happening this week, and it's just so active that it's hard to imagine there's not going to be activity happening, not only within your own lives, but on a national scale as well, or international scale, right? There's a lot of focus on the individual versus the collective, because the collective is that Pluto in the Aquarius, and then you've got all that energy in Leo, right, with the Mercury and the Jupiter and the new moon and solar eclipse. So that there's a lot of focus in that direction. On the mundane level, on the higher level, you've got the collective of everyone versus in Leo would be our government and government leaders. So there we may see some opposition going on there. But remember all of the trines and the sextiles happening as well, right? At the same time, there's just a lot of supportive aspects to that opposition. And so I really don't think there's going to be anything severe, watch universe, show me wrong, who knows? But just according to the way the astrology looks, with all the supportive aspects, it's hard to believe that there's going to be anything that's really challenging happening this coming week. I don't see EBS, I don't see war. If there's a skirmish, it's over quickly. I just can't see a whole lot of, I see a lot of activity, but I don't see anything major, right? Nothing big and major happening this week. but there's a lot of activity. So maybe a lot of stuff coming out, especially with the new moon. It's not a full moon. It's not like exposing something, but it is planting seeds. It's like the beginning. And because of that trine in Saturn that I showed you, the one that can be your fear, it's also their systems and structures, especially on a mundane level. And because it's in Aries, it's about like building new things, and it's a trine to Leo, which is our government system. So it's kind of like our governments are seeding new things, new intentions, planting new intentions to build out new things, right? And this is all stuff that's very familiar to us. We've heard a lot of this stuff already, so it may not be that surprising to you to hear that. Well, sure, they're doing that, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But that is kind of what the astrology looks like. It looks like that on a mundane level. Okay. And let's see here. I think that's about it. We are at the end of our slides. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation for the week of August 9th. And I don't know if I've smiled enough, but this is my second take, and it is a big week. I hope you have a good week. I hope you enjoy all the activity that's going on this week. I hope that I will see you on Wednesday, because Wednesday I was doing reads after the astrology, but gosh, if I did a read after this astrology, it would have been like an hour-long session, and that's pretty long. So I've broken up and started to do weekly reads, tarot reads on Wednesdays. So I hope I can see you on Wednesday for, I'm going to call it the Wednesday Pulse, but just, doing a quick read and seeing, okay, what's the energy look like for this week? Anything major coming up, and go. Is there anything that the universe wants to tell us? I'll be doing that Wednesdays, so I hope to see you on Wednesday. And I'm always looking at my comments, so if you leave comments, please, and you have questions that you'd like me to ask tarot on, I could pop in and do a special read and ask your question. So please leave comments, please leave me a thumbs up if you like the video, and I think that's about it. Oh, one other thing. Yes, so my friend Tarot by Lupo, he is, I do a collaboration with him on Saturdays, so hopefully you can look for that, because that should be out today as well. And also, let's see, what else? Oh, and Tarot by Lupo, he also does his zodiac spread that he often puts out, I think, about every Sunday. So you might want to look for that as well, because he does a weekly kind of forecast. He touches base and says, what's the energy like for this week on Sunday? So he checks it on Sunday, and I'm checking it on Wednesday. So hopefully you can check that out as well. But that's all. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you again, hopefully, on Wednesday.